Generation 1, Generation 2. Well, welcome back to Stewart Arts. A while back, I did some boxes out of billiard balls, and it was really fun project to do. They turned out really interesting, I think, and I want to do a little more work with billiard balls today. So I've got these pieces from a set that I got at a yard sale, and I'll share those with you. And I'm hoping to do a couple of lidded boxes with those. So hope you'll stay with me and see how this works out. I was very lucky to find this crazy box of cut in half billiard balls at a yard sale. I have no idea why they were cut in half, but they're all very nicely cut and they're almost exactly at the 50% point. So I thought, boy, these would be dandy to incorporate into some of my wood turning work. So I brought them back and I messed around with these just a little bit the other day just to see if I could work out a way to turn them, and they are quite machinable. They turn very well. They cut nicely with scraper and cut-off tool and so forth. But these things have a composite center to them that's really interesting. It looks like marble, but it's actually a plastic. And I think what this is it's maybe cuttings from all the exteriors of these other balls. So I cut a lip on this one and just polished it just a little bit. And I really like the look of it. It's kind of cracky and checky and it looks old, but I think it's got a lot of character. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm first going to cut the center out of them. I'm going to just put it on the lathe in a jig, and I'm going to kind of cut a hemispherical cavity into the top, and that's kind of to reduce the weight of the thing. These are a little bit heavy for a small box. So we're going to make the lid about a 1/2 inch thick, and I'm going to remove the material from the inside. And then I'm going to cut a box joint here, and when I do the bottom, the wood part of this, I'm going to try to make it a nice tight fit. Hopefully I can get it to be a nice friction fit like I like to do with my wood lidded boxes. But an option I've got here, if I don't achieve that, if it's hard to do with the plastic on wood, I will put an O-ring. I'm going to install an O-ring groove right here, and it'll go around the lid, and hopefully that'll help me to have a nice seal on the box. In a previous video, I made this jig to hold the billiard balls so that I could turn them on the wood lathe here. So this is just a faceplate, and this is just a piece of wood that I cut out. And the way that I use this is I'll just place the ball and clamp it in this little flange arrangement here, and then just bolt it in place. And that holds it so that I can machine it with the wood lathe tools to do what I want to do with it. So I'm going to use that same jig on the 6-ball here to hollow it out. I'm using this area rug anti-slip mat here, which is really excellent to keep the ball from slipping around in there. And then I'll mount it with this flange. This is flipped around from the way I would normally use it, but it's perfect for what I want to do here. So I'll just get this thing put together off camera, and I'll see you at the lathe. This plastic, it's not a phenolic, it's something else, and it cuts very nicely, but boy, it puts out a heck of a stench, so I don't want to be breathing that, and I will have my respirator on while I do this work. Well, that's really nice. That cuts like butter, and I'll tell you, I'll do a little bit of wet sanding on this. You can see tool marks, but it feels good and it looks good. So the next step is I'm going to pull this thing out here, and I'm going to devise a jig so that I can cut the flange on this thing, or the box joint, if you will, on the top. I love these tailings. Now, to get the box joint on this, what I'm going to do is I just took this little piece of sapele and cupped it out, and I've got a little bit of the non-slip area rug mat material, and I'm just going to bring my live center up into this piece, and I've got this little piece of maple from my scrap box here, and what I'll do, I've got to kind of control the run out a little bit on the face of this, so that's just going to be by eye. It doesn't have to be perfect, because when I turn it, it'll make it nice and true. So going around here and just kind of go tap, tap, tap here and there until I'm pretty happy with the face run out on this, and then I just tighten it down, push it nicely into this cup jig, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the box joint on.
Careful with that. This is a little bit of a thermal sensitive material. Push in there.
This video is really focused more on the billiard ball part of these trinket boxes, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the base. Used a piece of sea grape here. Here I'm just dimensioning the box joint. I want to have a nice close sliding fit if I can possibly get it. Here I'm hollowing out and just cutting the neck down on this thing and just shaping the top part of the jar.
Using this mini scraper that I made with the screwdriver. This thing is great for hollowing this little stuff like this.
The top of the jar and the inside are finished. I used a CA finish on the interior. Here I'm just finishing the bottom and cutting off the tenon. And it should drop right off right now. There we go. I'm using a spray lacquer to finish the box. I like this a lot. I did 5 or 7 coats of this on the inside and out and made a nice, smooth, pretty finish. When I made these, I didn't know I'd be calling them Generation 1 because I didn't think I'd be making any more of them. But these are the newer billiard balls. These are a phenolic type of plastic. Very hard material, but you get the tool just right and the speed just right, and you can machine this stuff and wet sand it and whatnot. So I made a few of these little trinket boxes here, just hollowing them out and making the lids and the base for them. So that was kind of fun to do. I've got a whole video on how I did this, and I'm going to put a link to the video in the notes for this video if you'd like to see that. Generation 1. Generation 2. Is newer always better? I don't know. I had fun making these. Here's the little 4-ball one that you saw me do in this video. I was going to do an O-ring for the closure joint, but it turned out it's not necessary. I've got a nice vacuum fit for these, all 3 of them, and turns out that this material that's inside the ball has kind of a waxy feel to it, and it actually seals up against the wood real nicely, so no O-ring was necessary. I did this one off camera. This is out of Sapelli, and it's also got a nice friction fit here, and real happy with how that came out. I think that green looks really nice with the dark Sapelli brown wood. Now this one I did out of a piece of roadside wood. This was a real branchy little crotch area. And there's a small story that goes with this one. I turned this. I was going to do a match grain piece here, and I had a lid, but I made the inside diameter of the lid bigger than the outside diameter, and you know what happens there. That thing went skipping off across the parking lot when I broke through. So I just made the lid out of this piece of maple. And I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with the appearance of that. I think it looks pretty cool. I think that blonde maple looks really nice with that burgundy colored billiard ball. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I sure hope you'll leave me a like and a comment. And if you haven't decided to become a subscriber to the Stewart Arts channel, then let's go ahead and do that. Push that button. I try to put out new content at least on a weekly basis. Have a great day. Now for my lathe, rather than clamping something, what I did is I drilled a hole in my little tool base here, and I just mount the post of this lamp into that hole.